Hi, I'm Auriel Grace, and today we're going to talk about the Eye of Ra, or Ray. Yeah, we are. So I did some research, and I am coming from a point of the Egyptian gods and goddesses being extraterrestrials. Okay, so Theo and I are doing shows every month that are called Ancient History and Ancient Civilization. And that is our point of view, is that a lot of or all of the pantheons are extraterrestrials. And so we're coming from that point of view. We're going back about 36,000 years ago. So if you can do that while you're listening to me, a lot of this might make sense. And honestly, when I started looking at these different mythologies and attributes of some of these gods and goddesses and the stories, I thought, yeah, you know what? That sounds extraterrestrial. So now that I've let you know about that, so you can leave or you can stay. According to Google, all right, the Eye of Ra is Ra's feminine counterparts. So, and they are his fierce warriors and his wives, daughters, and sisters. Okay? All right. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But so in these descriptions of these goddesses, I'm going to stay basic. Okay? Because I feel like there's a lot of extra stuff in there about these goddesses, and what has happened, I feel like, over time is that these goddesses have soaked in the attributes of other goddesses. And so if we go back and we try to break it all down, we're just going to get confused. I tried to do that. It was confusing. So I'm going to go with the basics. I'll have my research stuff on my show notes, on my blog, at aurielgrace.net. Click the Clarity 101 blog and you'll see it. Yeah. All right. So we're going to start with Mut Amunet. Okay. So Mut Amunet is the chief wife of Amun-Ra. And she is his consort. Okay, because in Egypt, the pharaohs had many wives, but they would have a chief wife, someone they chose specifically that was their favorite, and that was his go-to girl. That was his wife, and the other ones were, part of the harem. All right, so she's a great example of a chief wife. All right. So she was the only goddess that wore the upper and lower crowns of Egypt. She's the only one. And she also wore the vulture headdress as well. She carries a scepter that has a papyrus flower on the top. It looks like a papyrus flower coming out. And she is the one that is really, she is of human form. So she doesn't really take on a different form. But some people have said that she is a lioness. So, but most of the time when we see Mut or Amunet, she is in human form. And she's usually wearing a red or a blue dress. All right. Plus her crowns and her scepter. All right. So, and it depends too on what region of Egypt you're talking about. That's why I'm giving you both names, Amunet and Mut, because Mut was really regarded in Thebes and Heliopolis. Okay, so there's lots of temples. She shows up in temples, and she has her own temple, and so she shows up in all these places in Thebes and Heliopolis. So she's portrayed as a mother goddess. She is the chief wife to Amun-Ra, Re, And she is like, she's up there. All right. So she is the mom and the wife of the Pharaoh. All right. So now Mut does, in Karnak, you'll see her as a lion goddess and a female person. So you'll see her as both. Okay. So she's the chief wife of the god Re, or Ra, Amun-Ra. All right, so our next part of the Eye of Ra is Sekhmet. Sekhmet is a lioness goddess. She's fierce. She's cool. So one of her titles is the Powerful Woman, or Powerful One. And Sekhmet is known as the daughter of Ra, and she became the most important manifestation of the eye of the sun god. Okay, so Sekhmet is regarded as a battle goddess. She is also seen as the mother of kings, nurturing and loving, fiercely protective of the pharaohs. All right, so the pharaohs called her Sekhmet, Mistress of Life, because when they went into battle, they would bring lionesses with them. You know, they would have them on like leashes, and they would go in front of their chariots. And that's them bringing Sekhmet with them to battle so that they would win, right? So that's how they honored her. So Sekhmet was associated closely with Hathor, and also linked to with the Theban goddess. Okay, so because Hathor was worshipped in Thebes, and she was the aggressive counterpart of Mut and Amunet, Amun-Ra's chief wife. Okay, so she was the one that they would shift to as the protector. Okay, so she's connected with Ptah as his consort, and she is the mother of Nefertim in Memphis. All right, so again, we have Memphis, and then we have Karnak, and then we have Heliopolis, and we have Thebes. Yeah. So as time went on, Sekhmet absorbed, again, she's absorbing other virtues from other lioness goddesses. Okay, so they're all like coming together. Okay, so over time, this is what happens. And I also feel like that happens too because of the language and how it develops as well. So, and the culture and the language and how they all develop. So the next goddess is Hathor. And Hathor, after I read and heard a bunch of stuff, I realized that Hathor is Eye of Ra that represents the mother, the maiden, and the crone. Okay? Because Hathor is the maiden, the daughter. She is the daughter of Ra. Okay? And then she's the mother because she becomes wife to the Pharaoh and mother of the next Pharaoh. And then she's the crone who leads her people from life to the field of reeds, or Araru, which is their heaven, you know, their next life. And so that's what that's really what she does, which is really cool, you know. So that's Hathor. And you know, she is represented as a sky goddess, and she's also represented as like a moon goddess as well, like part of the moon, connected to the moon. She is represented as a sky goddess. She is also, she takes on the form of a cow as well, because again, she's the mother of the Pharaoh, so she would nurse the Pharaoh, she would nurture the Pharaoh, and that's how cows are, right? They're very nurturing and mothering, and that's how the Egyptians saw her. You will note her because she has the sun disk and the horns of a cow, and that's how you'll know it's Hathor. She is usually wearing a red or blue dress, sometimes both colors, red and blue. Okay, and so her titles are Mother of the Pharaoh, Wife of the Pharaoh, Daughter of Ra, as the Eye of Ra. And so I just feel like, maiden, mother, and crone. That's really what resonated with me when I was reading about Hathor and all of her stories. The big story, though, Hathor's big story is this, and I thought this was Sekhmet, but it was actually Hathor this happened to. So Ra got upset with the humans because they were making fun of him because he was getting older. And one of the cool things about the Egyptians is that they do believe that their gods live, they're born, they live, and they die. And so to them, it was just like, yeah, you're getting older, guy. What are you still doing up there? We should have another pharaoh, And so they're giving him a bunch of bull. And so he got upset. His ego was hurt. So Ra sends Sekhmet out. He goes, go out there and punish those humans for making fun of me, basically. And so Sekhmet, or Hathor, he tells Hathor, go out, punish those humans for making fun of me. And Hathor says, well, okay, you're the boss. So she goes down and she has her big rampage. Okay. And the next time Ra checks it out, Hathor has killed 75% of the population. And that kind of scares him, because then who else is going to worship him? So he creates this potion with mandrakes and the blood of her victims, and he tells the humans to make a huge vat of beer. And so they do. And he puts his concoction in the beer, and the beer turns red. And Hathor finds the vat of beer because she can smell the victim's blood, her victim's blood. And so she drinks it all, and she gets drunk. And then she shifts back into, I guess, nice Hathor. Yeah. So, and this is before Ra actually retires. Now, here's another story, which is interesting, because Hathor and Isis are a part of this story, and I feel like it's actually Isis that did this. Ra was getting old, and Horus was born already, and Horus was growing into a man, and Isis wanted him to be the next pharaoh. So as Ra was old, she went to Ra and she poisoned him. And he was so sick, and she goes, I have the antidote, Dad. Would you like to have the antidote? If you want it, I need to know your secret name. Oh yeah, and by the way, you're retiring because my son's coming up. And so he gave her his secret name. She had power over him. She gave him the antidote, and he retired. So his job, his only job, was to ride the sunboat, the bark, over through the day, and then his journey in the underground at night. That was his job. And Horus became pharaoh. Okay, so that is how Ra retired. And you see, as he retires or he dies, he's still doing part of his duties, right? He just gave up the duty of being pharaoh to Horus. All right, so, and that's what I have to say about that. Now, I know that there's a lot of, the Egyptians get a hard time about, marrying their sisters, the pharaohs marrying the sisters, the cousins, or the nieces, and whatnot. But I feel like, because they had these gods and goddesses that married each other, that was their example, right? And the pharaohs believed that they were, God incarnate, Ra incarnate. And so because they believed that, they wanted to keep that special magic or special energy in the lineage, right? Because they had the example of, let's see, Nut and Geb, brother and sister. That's Nut is the sky, Geb is the earth. They had their children, which were Isis, Osiris, Horus the senior, Nephthys, and Set. So Isis and Osiris paired up, Nephthys and Set paired up. Nephthys and Osiris had Anubis. Nephthys disguised herself as Isis and, had some fun with Osiris, and they had Anubis. And then Osiris and Isis had Hathor, or had Horus. So we see this happening with them. So with the humans, why wouldn't it happen? Right? They're just carrying on what they know. Okay. And I'm just saying that because a lot of times us humans, that's what we do. We just carry on with what we know or what we've been told, and we don't really think about like the outcome of it. We just do it because it's been done that way instead of trying something different. Yeah. Okay. So our last goddess, or Eye of Ra, is Bastet. And she's like my favorite. So Bastet is the youngest daughter of Ra, and she is his warrior. So every night when the sun boat goes into the underworld, Bastet fights Apophis and wins. So she wins that, and then they end up going into the Temple of Judgment, where Osiris is. And so she is his battle goddess. And yeah, when we look at her, she doesn't look like a lion. And I don't feel like she ever really did look like a lion, although she is called a lioness in some places. She has, kind of evolved down into like a domestic cat that can shift into a fierce lioness form when she has to. So she has evolved into like the goddess of childbirth, motherhood, and nurturing. She's very playful, and she teaches us not to take things so seriously. So the Greeks, thought of her as like their Artemis, because Artemis was the same way. And so she has a little bit of moon goddess in her too. So she's the moon and the sun, balancing that out, right? From fierce to nurturing. So she's really awesome as well. So that is the Eye of Ra. Is that cool or what? I thought it was cool. Anyway, I hope that clarifies a little bit about the Egyptians and their pantheon for you, and gives you a new perspective on how to think about them. Right? All right. So have a wonderful week, and I'll see you Sunday night. Keep your heart open and align with the energy of love. Bye.